little bigger. So that's what Lachish. You can see it has two protecting walls, and it's higher, and there's a palace, a courtyard, and the area where we excavated this year is the area that is circled over there. And we excavated on where homes were. Okay. Now it is also known that the homes that are nearest to the palace courtyard is also they are considered the high class homes. Okay, so we were digging in that area there. As farther away from the palace is the poorer, and of course by the walls is the very poor people that live as far as possible from the main palace. So those that are close to the courtyard or close to the palace supposedly are the higher and more and wealthier citizens. Okay, so back to the to today's Lachish, the area where we're excavating is the area where the circle is. Okay, so you have the palace, the courtyard come in this way, and then that area back there is where the houses that we were trying to excavate. And we were trying to go down all the way to the level of destruction of King Sennacherib. Okay, so another view of it, and my job there mainly was to do photography, aerial photography. So these aerial photographs were all done with one of our drones here from Muscle Academy. You'll see there are 3 sites being excavated. Okay, this tent over here is where I spent most of my time. There's a tent over there, and then one on this side, and the middle tent is actually a cafeteria tent. So we would stop and eat things there. So 4 universities were there. Southern University from Tennessee was there. Hebrew University from Jerusalem was there. A university from Michigan called Oakland University was there, and then there was a South Korean university from Seoul that was there as well. So we were working with people from different parts of the world. About 70 or 80 of us were digging in that place. Now, the excavations have been going ever since the 1930s. Okay. And when they got to the level of destruction of Nebuchadnezzar, they came up with what became known as the Lachish letters. Of course, these are clay tablets with writing in them. And these letters show or depict the destruction or the invasion of Nebuchadnezzar and to Lachish. This particular one here, which is the first one there, tells that the people of Lachish, the other fortified cities, what they did is they communicated with each other by using smoke. All right, that's how they did it. And by the move of Nebuchadnezzar into these fortified cities, they were telling the cities ahead of that army that they needed to be ready, to be prepared, because the army was coming. And one of the letters that was sent to another king, because each one of these cities had a king. Another letter that was sent, this letter was sent to to another king that said something like this: we're Lachish, we're looking at the city of Azekah, and we no longer see their smoke signals, which basically meant they have already been conquered by the armies of Nebuchadnezzar. So be ready. And in this case, Azekah was the one prior to Lachish. So the people in Lachish that sent this message knew that they were next. Imagine that. You're in this fortified city, and you know that this massive army will come and will take over. Even though it is a fortified city, these armies would come and siege, stay around the city for 1, 2, 3, 4 years, as long as it needed. And then, of course, people inside would run out of food, run out of water, and eventually they'd be conquered that way. Okay? So that has to do with Nebuchadnezzar. This one is the king of course, now Nebuchadnezzar is 500 BC or so. This is 700 BC, and BCE basically is common, I forgot before common era. Okay, and BC would be before Christ. But basically, this is a depiction done and found in Nineveh, and right now the original is in the British Museum. Of the conquering of Sennacherib's conquering of Lachish. So you'll see the king sitting there above everybody else, and these are the Judeans that have been conquered at Lachish, and they're bringing their tributes and paying tributes to the king And of course, he was successful in the destruction of Lachish, and so it's depicted here. Okay, now the actual dig that we had. We would go to the site every day around 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock in the morning, would be up there at the site. And the reason for that, and we would work from 4:30 or 5 o'clock, we'd start and go all the way to 1 o'clock in the afternoon and then go back. And the reason for that is because it's summertime there, and the heat was the average of about 105 to 108, some days were 112. And so you can work in the morning. Of course, it's desert, so early morning is nice, but by noon it's extremely hot. And so it's actually a government decision that nobody can work a whole day. If you go early in the morning, you leave at 1, and if you show up at 1, which we did on Sundays, then we would go until 8. But you cannot work the entire day on a dig like that. And I mentioned in the first class that I did this, we would come back at 1, have our lunch to the kibbutz where we were staying, and then we were required to take a siesta of 2 hours. This is hard work, and if you don't get your sleep properly, you will get sick. And sure enough, by the 3rd week, some of the students and the people involved that did not pay attention to the siesta began to get sick. And when you get sick, you can't go to the digs, and then your spot is needed, and the square that you're digging falls behind and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so these are people that have been doing this for over 25 years. They know what they're doing, the leaders. And so we would get there early in the morning, would have a devotional, worship, and then would start working, okay? And you don't use heavy equipment on a dig. You use equipment like that. And so digging with something like that takes time. But why do you dig with it? There are a few other tools, but why does it have to be that way? If you use heavy equipment, you will destroy evidence. Okay, we're expecting to find evidence, and we would destroy it if we have heavy equipment. Okay, most of what we used, you can see there. What is that? A broom. So you're all the time digging, mostly with the broom, and using other tools just to loosen up dirt, and then you sweep over, because you may come across pots and clay and stuff, and that would break if you hit something hard. Okay. This is the heaviest of all the tools that you use there. And every single time we were using those, and of course the archaeologist in charge would say, okay, let's dig faster. Use those, would end up destroying some stuff. Okay? And sometimes it would hurt when you see a vase being cracked and it was nice, and so you have to pick up all the pieces and take it to the lab, the Hebrew University lab, and then they'll try to put it back together. But in this case here, her name is Catalina, and she found a human bone. Of course, we come across tons of bones, especially if you're in the area of dirt, of trash. And what an archaeologist really likes is to find the trash, okay, the trash area, because you'll find all sorts of things that can tell us how people ate, how they lived, what they wore, and things like that. But she found a human bone, which was not common, is not common, unless you get to a level where there was a war, there was a battle, a destruction, people got killed. And of course, they didn't have the weapons that we have today. They had swords and things like that, clubs and so on. So she found him, and her dad is a doctor, and so he was the first one that identified this as a human bone. But we had an expert, a bone expert, on with us the whole time there. A guy that actually all he does is read bones, so he can identify if it's a bone of a chicken or a cow or horse or whatever. Okay, and that tells us how these people ate and how they lived. Okay. This is part of our dig, and you can see different things in here. We come across walls, we come across streets, and we come across mud brick walls, and you have to be very sensitive to all these things, or it will destroy evidence. And when you come across things that we don't want people to step on, then we put these marks. And so as you keep digging, it becomes more difficult to move around, because there are many places where they don't want you to step on. These are things that are, you know, almost 3,000 years old. And so you want to be careful how you walk over these things. And also we keep digging, and so then pretty soon safety is an issue. Because now you have 5 feet drops or 8 feet drops, and so you have ladders that you need to come down to. You got to secure these ladders and things like that. So it becomes something that that if you're not careful, you may fall and break a leg, or you don't want to fall and hit your head on rocks like that. Okay. Something else that we do, that we had to do, is photograph everything. Anything that came across, it'd be a wall, it'd be a piece of pottery, you know, everything had to be photographed. So they had a guy there that his whole job was just to take pictures. Okay, my area was mostly aerial pictures, because they have to redesign and draw everything that we find, and so aerial pictures help the people to do that too. Also, they had to write down everything and put it on a database. And so here it is, a little bit of that. You have people that need to take notes of everything that happens there. A team of designers or people that would draw things, and they would go on site. And there we had computers on site where everything that was found had to be entered on a database. And every piece of pottery that's found is given a number, and that number has to identify it, and so on. Okay? And these are two of our archaeologist doctors, and this is a student. And so you can see a little bit of the drawing that she had to do of the area that she was supervising. Okay? And as the dig keeps going, you can see differences. For example, this is a wall, and they decided to keep that wall. And so now everything that we do, we dig around it, and that wall stays there. Here's another wall, and you can see the difference. This is a rock wall. This one is a mud brick wall. These are things that you have to be sensitive to as you're digging. Another picture from that mud brick wall. See, that's the rock wall over there, and you can see the mud bricks. Okay, that tells us that there were levels of destruction, and as the destruction ended and people moved back into the place, they built on top of what had been the destruction from the previous invasion. Okay, and you see the different technologies that they had. For a while there, they were building with rocks. Now they have the technology of making bricks, and now putting the bricks on top of each other and making their houses that way. So different levels, different parts of the city were destroyed. They were building on top of it. Again, that same, we kept digging, and now you see the different. You see mud brick, and you see block, not block, but rocks, and then you have more mud bricks at the bottom. So these are the different levels. And when you're excavating, that's what you come across. You come across these things. All of these tell a story. Now I told you about levels of destruction. Well, this is what a level of destruction level looks like. When you keep digging and you come across bunches of pottery that is all broken, that is destroyed. And so you know that at that point there was something that disturbed the life in that place. And usually it's an invasion of an army, and they come in and they burn everything and they break everything, and that's what you find. And one of the things that you also find is ashes. See this the dark area there? And ashes tells us what? That an army came in and burned whatever they had over there. So we will find ashes as well. I mentioned something the previous time, is that one way to identify these levels is not only by the pottery. They can read the pottery too, but they read also olive pits. You know what an olive pit is? Well, the olives that we eat here have no pit, no seed in them. Okay? But you go to these countries, they'll give you an olive for you to eat with your salad, and if you bite on that thing really hard, you'll break your teeth, because there's a pit in there. Well, they would eat olives, because this is an olive country, and they'll throw the pit. And by analyzing the olive pit and the carbon and all that, they can also give dates to the area where they were found. Okay? So every time we came across olive pits, we couldn't get them with our gloves or our hands. You had to actually get it with metal, so we don't imprint, we don't put the oil that we have in our hands and all that, so they can do the reading. Okay, so that's a level of destruction. Another part of a level of destruction, and the archaeologists they have to actually